You know, the extremely short answer is the writer doesn't have to like the actor, he just has to like the check. But the long answer is that a book exists entirely in the imagination. It's first of all my imagination, then your imagination. And together, those two imaginations working together. Because it's a really, really weird and interesting process. I mean, all I do is I dream stuff up and I make very strange black marks on a white piece of paper. That's the only thing that I do. And then you look at those black marks on the white paper, and in your imagination, the story pops into your head. And so it's purely imaginary, it's virtual, it has no reality. But then if you do a movie, however much you know, CGI or computer stuff and however much camera angle and artifice there is, it is fundamentally the real world. It's real people in a real physical space. So immediately you lose the freedom of the imagination and you're trapped in reality. And of course, one of the realities that you're trapped in is who is available, who wants to do it, who can bring the money, who can get the project off the ground. And that immediately limits you to a finite number of people who, you know, who did want to do it, who's on the A-list that can bring that much money. So immediately you're dealing with a very tight sort of reality. But what did I think of it? You know, really, I didn't think of it. I did not think of it because I write the books, and to me, I live in a world of books. I always have. I've always been a reader. To me, books are the thing. And what I really, really intensely dislike is non-book people, people who are vaguely aware that books exist, but you know, aren't really into them. You can be on a plane, if you're a writer, and if you're a writer, you spend a lot of time on planes. And if you're on a plane and you're foolish enough to talk to the person next to you, inevitably they're going to say, what do you do? And you say, I'm a writer. Actually, I don't anymore because it's such a boring conversation. I say I'm a drug dealer. I say, I'm a writer. And then 100% of the time, literally guaranteed, the next comment from them is, oh, have any of your books been made into movies? As if a book is not enough. As if a book is just yearning and struggling and waiting to become a movie. Whereupon, if it does, it is then valid, it exists, it's real. And that is so not my opinion. In my opinion, the book is the thing. It is not a serial event that then it might become a movie. The book is the ultimate product. It is the only product. It is the definitive product. And if somebody wants to make a peripheral version out of it, that is not on my track. It's on a side track that is far away from me. And it makes no difference to me. It doesn't affect the book in any way. It doesn't change the book in any way. I checked this. Before they started making the movie, I looked at one shot, because I have a copy of it. And then after they made the movie, I looked at it again. And you know what? All the words are still there. None of them have changed at all. So the book does not change. The movie is a separate project. And there have been many separate projects. You could argue that an audio book is a separate project. And what happened to me about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago is a thrash metal band from Poland got in touch via my website, and they said they really, really wanted to make an album, where a 12-track thrash metal album, where each 5-minute track would be an encapsulation of one of the Reacher books. You know, 12 books in the form of a 5-minute thrash metal song. Would I mind? And I said, no. Knock yourself out, whatever. So they were very pleased, and they sent me the lyrics for approval, which I couldn't read because they were in Polish. So there is out there somewhere in cyberspace, you know, available for download, a Polish thrash metal album that encapsulates the entire Reacher series from Killing Floor up to Nothing to Lose. And does that affect anybody? Does that change the books? Does that change your opinion? Is everybody saying, this is outrageous, Reacher can't sing, Reacher's not It makes no difference, right? So how does that make a difference? So I was very, very blithe about it. I just thought, yeah, whatever, you know, and, you know, to be horrendously pretentious about it. Suppose I was Bob Dylan, right? Suppose I'm Bob Dylan, and I've written a song called All Along the Watchtower. And my manager calls me and says, and I saw one of Bob Dylan's ex-wives actually just the other day. I was at the BBC and saw Joan Baez. We were both waiting for an interview. And that made me think of it. I mean, suppose that I'm Bob Dylan and the manager says somebody wants to make a cover version of All Along the Watchtower. What would I want to hear? Would I want to hear a sort of note-for-note replication, like a clone of what I've already done? Or would I want to hear somebody else's version, somebody else's interpretation? I think I would prefer the latter. I would prefer Jimi Hendrix to do it. So in a way, I didn't want the movie to be like the book. I wanted it to be somebody else's opinion, just to sort of see what they thought of it, see what their take on it was. So I was really, really relaxed about it. And obviously that was a terrible mistake because I had so much, I got so much shit for it. And people, people are very kind about it. They say, well, you had no control and so on. But I did have control, actually. I had 100% de facto control. None at all in the contract. Legally, contractually, no control at all. But, because the deal dates back to 2005. That's when they did the deal. And when you do a movie deal, it's basically the movie contract is typically longer than the book, and it is full of all kinds of arcane language. And by the time you read through it, you get to about page 280. You find out what it is you're actually selling them, and what you're selling them is the license to produce a dramatic production, to be shown, and get this, it says to be shown anywhere in the known universe and parts not yet discovered. That's what it says, and that is presumably like a historic bit of boilerplate dating from the birth of satellite technology, where they were anticipating legal challenges that the satellite is, because satellites kind of beam it all over the place, it comes down to Earth obviously, but maybe it also goes upward. So they were anticipating a challenge from saying, I didn't say you could show it on Mars. So they put in that language, and the whole thing is tight as a drum, and there's nothing you can do about it. But in the intervening years, the 6 years between when the contract was signed and when they started to make it, obviously the Reacher series had gotten bigger and bigger. And so they needed me to be happy with it, because what they didn't need was another Anne Rice situation. Did you follow that? Where, it did the vampire thing, and Anne Rice was very opposed to it. They didn't want that, so they wanted my opinion. So they called me. I remember I was in New York, and they called me and said, "We're flying to New York, and we'll take you to dinner because we have something to discuss." And judging by the restaurant that they had invited me to, I knew that they were going to tell me it was Tom Cruise, because this is a super expensive restaurant. And if it had been like Hugh Jackman, it would have probably been a less expensive restaurant. So I show up at the restaurant, and they start all the pleasantries and the sort of general banter and the small talk. And I said, guys, it's Tom Cruise, isn't it? And they said, yes, it is. And I knew then that I had like one split second that if I had thrown a total wobbler at that point, they would have scrapped it, because they wanted me to be happy with it. So I had one split second to make up my mind, and I just thought, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's just see what it's like. So I was less unhappy with the Tom Cruise. I mean, I was fine with Tom Cruise. He obviously didn't look like Reacher. I mean, we know that physically. He did not look like Reacher, but who does? Which actor does? Because we'd been through this theoretical thing for years about casting the part. And there are no big actors. There are literally no big actors. And you have to wonder why. Cinema is 100 years old, and there have never been any big actors. And it must be some optical thing. It must be something to do with the way the lens and the focus and all that actually works, because there have never been any big actors. There have been a couple of freaks, like that guy that just died, Jaws, from the James Bond movie. There have been a couple of sort of character actor freaks, but there have never been any kind of mainstream actors that are big. They're all small. And people say, what about this guy? I mean, people say to me, Daniel Craig would have been good. Well, Daniel Craig is smaller than Tom Cruise. I mean, unbelievable. He is. I was on a plane with him coming to London one time, and he is waist high